We turn to that major breakthrough in the story of allegations against Bill Cosby. Now, in just minutes, we're going to hear directly from one of his accusers, as well as a former prosecutor who may have some insights into how the criminal charges could work against this famous actor. Now, here is the background. Thanks to a lawsuit from the AP, a court just released testimony from Cosby that for the first time ever reveals him admitting to obtaining sedatives with the intent of drugging women for sex. It's all from a 2005 civil suit from a woman who accuses Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting her. Now, Cosby was not charged in that case. We are supposed to hear from the prosecutor who investigated it later this hour. Cosby's lawyers fought to keep the legal deposition sealed for the past 10 years, saying the revelation would be embarrassing for the comedian. Now, there has been further fallout for Cosby. Commercially, two networks announcing they're pulling his syndicated shows this week. But the bigger question many are asking is whether this new admission will lead to further accountability for Cosby in court. Now, we should note, as part of our reporting here, NBC News has repeatedly reached out to Cosby's representatives for comment. His spokespersons say he has no comment right now. We also want to note that Cosby has generally denied these types of charges and not been charged with a crime in connection with them. All right, joining me now is Lily Bernard, who alleges Bill Cosby assaulted her, and Gloria Allred, an attorney representing the case. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening, Ari.
Lily, what did you think when you first heard about this disclosure this week, and does any of it match any of your experience?
Well, I first felt a sense of vindication, and all I can speak is from my perspective, and I hope that other people are also able to see that there are certain characteristics that are hallmarks to rapists who clandestinely drug their victims in order to incapacitate us and to detain us. And those characteristics are cowardice and depravity. And I have firsthand knowledge of those characteristics of Bill Cosby, which are cowardice and depravity, because I was drugged and raped by Bill Cosby.
The specific admission here that he makes back in 2005, now disclosed for the first time, is that he obtained Quaaludes with the intent to use them to have sex with women. In your case, do you have any way of knowing whether that was the drug that as you allege, was used on you?
I have no way of knowing because he drugged me without my knowledge. He must have slipped the drug in the apple cider that he gave to me and that he made me drink. And within a very short while, the room began spinning, and I was unable to move my body the way I normally was able to. I was conscious, however, my arms felt very heavy, like lead, and when I tried to move them, they felt like rubber. As I screamed for help, and he told me to shut up and covered my mouth with his hand, I was unable to push his hand away because of the drugs incapacitating my body. And when I continued to scream, and then he then pushed the pillow into my face, suffocating me to silence my scream, I was yet unable to push the pillow away from my face. And it was terrifying. It was bondage via drugs.
And Lily, and I know this is difficult to talk about, so I appreciate you walking us through it. When you look at this situation, a lot of folks, as you well know better than many, took Bill Cosby's side, defended him, attacked some of the women who had made these allegations. Looking at this now, do you feel this is a turning point? Do you have anything to say to those people, given that now there's evidence that Bill Cosby himself was admitting to at least part of the pattern of behavior that you and others alleged?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to say to them that I empathize with them because I, too, was deeply betrayed by Bill Cosby in that he mentored me for a long period before he drugged and raped me. He entrusted me to him, and it was this terrible sense of betrayal. So I understand how those people who've also had relationships with him that have been positive feel a terrible sense of betrayal. And it takes a lot of courage, you know, for people like Jill Scott to be able to say that they were duped, you know. So I have nothing but empathy for those people. Because the same thing was true for me.
And Gloria, looking at this legally, does anything that has now been revealed just this week change or add to cases that can be brought?
Well, absolutely. And let me just say first that Lily Bernard, my client, is a very, very brave woman to have come forward, and I just commend her for that. And also, of course, I do represent Judy Huth in her lawsuit against Bill Cosby, wherein she alleges that she was 15 years old when Mr. Cosby committed an act of sexual misconduct against her at the Playboy Mansion. Mr. Cosby has been attempting to get this case thrown out of court. He was unsuccessful at the trial level. He then filed a writ with the California Court of Appeals, who declined to review it, so he was unsuccessful with them. He's now, then we were to take his deposition in my office on June 26th, but he filed a petition with the California Supreme Court. So we had to continue the deposition. Our case is now pending before the California Supreme Court. And it's a very important case. It's the only case in the nation, in fact, against Mr. Cosby, where it really goes to the heart of what did he do, what did he not do. It's not a defamation case. And it's a case alleging child sexual abuse, so it's very serious. Any allegation of sexual abuse of an adult is very serious. It's even more serious when it's a case of child sexual abuse. So we're looking forward to what the California Supreme Court is going to decide on this case. We hope we can move forward. Mr. Cosby's been trying to hide the truth for way too long, and we're very glad this new deposition was finally made public.
And a final question, Gloria. I spoke to Bruce Castor earlier today, who, of course, was the prosecutor that investigated the underlying claims in the newly released deposition. He's actually running for DA and says that there might be a perjury prosecution available based on the deposition, which carries up to 7 years potential prison in Pennsylvania. Do you see anything like that possible? Do you think, in your view, as an expert involved in these cases, that there's a route wherein Bill Cosby could be prosecuted and end up in jail?
Well, I wouldn't want to make that accusation or reach that conclusion unless and until I could really see the full context of what Mr. Cosby said, and and why it would be considered not to be true. So I really don't know. I will say this: I intend to use his statements in the deposition when I take my deposition of Mr. Cosby in the case of Judy Huth, and I'm looking forward to that day when I can do that and ask him more about allegations that he drugged the women. And that day, I hope, will come soon, because Judy Huth really wants to have her day in court, and her case is so important, not only to her, but to other women as well.
Understood. Gloria Allred and Lily Bernard, appreciate you both making time on what we know to be such a difficult story.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you. Bill Cosby's list of accusations does span decades. The first allegation happened in 1965. A then 22-year-old woman named Christina Rulli met Cosby while working at a talent agency and told Philadelphia Magazine she passed out after drinking a cocktail at his house. She alleged that when she came to, Cosby attempted to force her into oral sex. And the most recent alleged incident that we know about publicly allegedly occurred in 2008. Chloe Goins saying that Cosby drugged her at a party in California before assaulting her. About 36 women have come forward accusing Cosby of misconduct in all. And we want to turn to John Zach, a former federal prosecutor, who can speak about the timing issues here. If you have a case like this, where many of the underlying acts are old, putting aside statute of limitations, which simply bar some of these, in certain states they may still be available, how do prosecutors reckon with crimes or alleged crimes that are so old?
Well, in this context, they reckon with them in a very specific way, which is the rules of evidence have an expansive approach to introducing this type of prior misconduct in a sexual assault context. And they're allowed to admit this type of evidence in any new case for a wider variety of purposes than you otherwise would be for other types of misconduct. So these types of older deeds can be very useful in bringing a new case, assuming it's a timely case.
The local prosecutors who've looked at these issues have generally said that because of the time, the delay, and the lack of physical or forensic evidence, they didn't feel they met the standard to move forward. Based on what you know, do you think that is correct, or do you think he has somehow gotten some softer treatment?
Well, look, those types of decisions are made by prosecutors, and you really have to fully appreciate the evidence if you're going to make that call. So I don't know that I can make that call sitting here, but what I can say is if you have an admission like this that's on the record, it's a piece of evidence that's very helpful to you in making that decision. And so if you were a prosecutor sitting there today and you were looking at what your file had in there, this is something that you would focus on and you would think would weigh in favor of bringing a charge.
Now, you were a federal prosecutor and you worked on racketeering and conspiracy cases. How would you take that kind of admission in this instance? Because people are looking at home going, okay, well, now it seems like the cat's out of the bag. Now he said it. He's admitted it under oath. How would you use that in any way in another case?
Well, so, that type of admission is kind of gold to a prosecutor because it's an admission by the defendant. So it's admissible for any purpose in a trial. So if you're given that piece of evidence that my case, I'm going to have this with me. I'm going to be able to show this to the jury. I'm going to be able to say that this guy said.
So just to slow that down, John, when you say any purpose, what are the examples you're thinking?
So, when a statement from a defendant just comes in a criminal trial, as long as it's relevant, and because you have a deposition transcript, it's there, it's in his own words, you really can't attack it because it's a fixed thing.
So when we were waiting, and we mentioned this in terms of journalism, we were waiting to hear more from his side, and we'll report it if they come out and speak. But let's imagine, he goes to trial and says, no, I never obtained those kind of drugs. I never drugged anyone. Then what do you do with that?
Well, then you have this, you can use it to sort of impeach him or to show that he's not telling the truth. You can bring that deposition transcript out. You can show it to the jury and say he said under oath in 2006 that he had done this conduct, which is very powerful evidence, and it's a very powerful thing to have at trial.
All right, former federal prosecutor John Zak, thanks for walking us through some of this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.